isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Really, Cheech?
Gotta get your H2O.
Welcome to welcome to Crush This, a monster truck podcast. My name is Brad Shaw, as always. And with me, as always, is this goofball sitting beside me, the co-host of all co-hosts, the Mr. Producer of Tune In on Tuesdays for the Hall Brothers Racing. Oh, what happened? What did he do? Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Cheech Agosh. Dan, how you doing today, bro?
Almost done. Almost.
You gotta get that good quality H2O.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look.
Oh.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, he has done it.
Look at this big bottle.
How you doing today,
Look
bro?
how big that smart bottle is. This is like a liter. Now I gotta figure.
Compared to my can of Coke Zero.
Oh, Coke Zero. This is water zero. Zero the sugar, zero the flavor. I am doing fantastic. Just got done today shooting a Tune In on Tuesday. If anyone wants to watch that, just came out with that this week. Tim Hall's talking about the tools that we normally use, specialty tools and tools in general that we normally use in the monster truck world. So here's my big microphone that's about the size of my head. But overall, doing pretty well. Now I need to go ahead and change a couple things. I was supposed to go to Texas this week, but I'm going to be going to Oklahoma. Oh, no. Anyway, Oklahoma this weekend for the picture truck. So, I gotta tell my family members that some of my family members is gonna be missing out. So, gotta tell them about it. But outside of that, we're doing pretty well, getting stuff ready to go. But yeah, check out our Tune In on Tuesday, and a shout out to the Throttle Out crew. They came over to our show last weekend in Waxahachie, Texas, and watched Kurt Kramer do his car crush and hung out. Man, that stinks. I spilled water and now it's just, like, look at that. It looks like I have a hole in my chest. Gosh, like Iron Man. I need to get a flashlight. But anyway, they came out and hang out with us, and it was the first time that Austin's daughter went to see up close and personal with a full size monster truck, not the trucks with the toter tires on it. So that was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, but overall, doing pretty well. So let's go after thanking all the people that have helped us out here, Brad.
Yep. So we'll start off with Mr. Joe Sylvester and High Octane Coffee. If you're in Las Vegas, go check out Joe at Speed Vegas. He's got the Nightmare Express ride truck. He's got the Mayhem ride truck. The Nightmare Express, it's a full-blown race truck with 3 other seats. So he'll take you on the ultimate thrill ride. Go check out what he's doing. We also got J Concepts, Fred and Jason there. Providing some awesome, good quality products for the RC monster truck world for the solid axle stuff. They, sponsor and help out a lot of guys that we've talked to. Cheech is one of them. Our good friend Josh Rhodes. Let's see who else we got. Nick Davis of Backshadow Productions, doing a lot of the video coverage for the Renegade Monster Truck Tour. 6B Apparel, Chris at 6B Apparel. We have crew shirts, $100 a pop. We have the old school logo, which you can see on Dan's shirt there, kind of in the background there. And we also have the retro wave Crush This logo as well, the kind of more modern one that we've been rocking with for the last 2 or so years. Letting it scroll here. That's the best way for me to always check. We got JB Scale Graphics, and I'll let Dan take this one because I always mess it up. Dan, who does JB Scale Graphics make?
Okay, JB Scale Graphics does die-cast stuff. Oh, no. So JB Scale Graphics is decals for your favorite RC 10 scale, 8 scale monster trucks. They're officially licensed by Bigfoot, Bad Habit, Against the Grain, Obsessed, The Ripper, and many, many more. So, and they also make flags for your liking. So take a look at that also. And also, last but not least, Bradley Shaw Designs. Take a look at his stuff. Most of his stuff is part of the Renegade Monster Truck Tour.
Yep.
If you go to the archives of the Monster Blog, you get to see the Bigfoot Bad Boy and much, much more. Also, one thing I have to clarify. The crew shirts, they are made to order.
Yes.
They're not just on a shelf. They're not on clothes hangers. I had one guy ask me, wanted to buy a crew shirt. Okay, it's $100. He said, okay, I'll wait for the shirt comes. No, the shirt does not come until we get paid, and then we pay 6B to make the crew shirts. So that's how it goes. And what do you want, Brad?
Well, I was gonna say it's because of how they're made. With the printing, and they have to get sewn together. They're not like a normal shirt where they can just screen print it. They're custom made to order.
That's what I was trying to explain, but it's okay.
Well, some people don't know the difference between screen printed or the sublimated. That's what I was trying to explain.
Well, yeah, I was explaining that too, but you interfered with me. But whatever, man. So we'll go off from there. Anyway, go ahead and just realize that these things have to get made. So we can go ahead and pay them. So, and once again, don't contact 6B. Contact us. 6B won't make it, even if you have the money. If 6B doesn't, have, am I? Oh, look, Dylan Phillips. Who's Dylan Phillips?
I do not know.
Oh, well, I guess I'm a dick. No, I just call his. Brad has called me like it is too. So
yep.
If I'm a dick, then call me Dick Tracy or something like that. But you don't have to be on this show. I don't care. It's my show. It's our show. Let me rephrase that. It's our show, and we can say whatever the hell we want to say, and that's how we roll. Yeah. And so are you, and you don't have to be on this show.
No, and we don't take comments like that. So it's a positive place that we run here, and
me and Brad have gone through a lot. So he has a thick skin and I have a thick skin, and we just move on. So that's the way it goes. If you're right now, I feel like Dylan's the one that's triggered, and we didn't even do anything. Triggered.
Yep. We're like brothers. We mess with each other. Like Dan said, we've been through a lot the last 6 years,
we just need someone from Mexico, and then we have Canada, United States, and Mexico.
We just need a Mexican correspondent now.
we need someone from like the North Pole. Oh wait, we're liberals. How are we liberals? How are we? What?
Oh man, this is already turning weird. Well, we might as well get on with the interview, I think, Cheech.
Yeah, we might as well. I don't know.
This is the greatest start to an episode I think we've ever had. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're liberals. Oh,
all right, goodness. I'm going to say this one quick thing to Dylan Phillips in there. This is a place of positivity. This isn't a place of negativity. Okay. If you want to, it's a freedom of speech, but don't be rude to people. Okay. That's the only thing that we ask, and I'm getting a little bit, I'm getting serious for a second, okay. It's just, don't be rude to people. Okay. You don't know what somebody's going through, and don't talk to people negatively, and don't put people down. That's all I'm going to say. This is a place of positivity. Yes, me and Dan joke around, and I know he's joking, but just, don't put comments like that in the chat because, you never know what somebody's going through. Okay. That's all I'm going to say.
Right on. Well, anyway, let's change this whole outcome out. Man, Did you see this right here? I have a giant water spot on my shirt. Because I was trying to pour water. This thing's like a giant oyster.
But let's bring in our guest, Cheech. You know more about the current owner of the truck and the guy that we're going to be talking to tonight. So let's how about you introduce him?
I'm gonna screw up his name, but I knew this guy for a long time. Met him at the Hall of Fame, and he would normally call me a dick in front of my face, but it's okay. I love him. He has seen worse things to other people. Yeah, it'll dry Cheech. I know, man. It with the camera, it's right there, and I need like a light, and I look like Iron Man. Like it's so center on my chest. That's like whatever. It'll dry off. The cool shirt from Obsessed Wear. And before we introduce him, Brad, let them know about the t-shirts too. We always forget about that, and that's bad on that.
Yeah, it's belowthecollar.com/Crisis Podcast. Below the Collar is also owned by the people that do pro wrestling tees in Chicago. They are made to order as well. It's good quality stuff. And if we get more than 25 sales, around 25 sales, we can add a new shirt. We have 3 designs up: the new school logo, the old school logo, and kind of like a other design that I've done. So go check those out. It helps us out, offset the costs of running the podcast, and just helps us out. So right
on. Yeah. So go ahead and check a look at that. I think Brad, if you did last time, can you maybe put a link in chat so people know where to go? And another heads up on that, that's another paid to order thing. So if you guys are wondering why the t-shirts come out like within like 2 or 3 weeks, it's because of that. You guys pay and they make it. So excuse me. So wait, guys. Okay. Back to the regular schedule programming. It's a little chilly here, so I need to turn up my temperature. It's maybe I need to bring it up because I need to chill out. Anyway, so this guy I ran him with for a long time, and a cool cat. We ran with him in 2019 in Mississippi. He was driving a truck called Hammer Time, which we'll learn a little bit more about the history of that truck. But this guy is a pretty awesome cat, and he's none other than Mark Pedersen in the truck called Reptoid.
Hi guys,
how you doing, man? Pretty interesting.
How's it going, Mark?
Pretty interesting morning. Not morning, but pretty good, interesting start.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was sitting there listening. It didn't take long for a hater to actually come into the plate, and I thought, we didn't even really get anything going, and the haters already are going, So
that's right.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but like I'm with you, you know what? You have an opinion, just keep it to yourself if you can't be respected.
And that's the thing, just in this world in general, the world that we're in right now, if you have, you have a freedom of speech, but if it's not a good comment, keep it to yourself. It's all about positivity and love, especially these days.
Yeah. Some of us that grew up that, if you didn't have anything nice to say, you didn't say anything at all, and it's very hard. We all have to remind ourselves of that on a daily basis, maybe even a weekly basis, maybe by the hour, depending on who you are, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what you try to live by. If you have nothing good to say, then just don't say it at all. Keep it to yourself.
Right. Exactly. And he's probably right now liking this because we're giving him a love, I guess. But you know what? I mean, I've been called worse things. All of us has been called worse things. So it's just, I'm not crying over spilled milk. You know what I mean?
No.
It is what it is.
You're absolutely correct on that. And it's the same thing, sorry about that.
How about these guys ask our exes? They can tell us nothing positive about us.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Are we really going to go there, though, or not? Are we
No,
going to go
no, we're
there?
not
Okay.
No, we're not going
no,
there.
no.
No, we're not going there. No.
Good, because you're starting to make me nervous.
But man, how did you let's start like we always normally ask is like how you start in the monster truck world. Were you always a fan, or were you always a fan, or were you just a lot of people accidentally get into the scenario and then they, stick to it for a very long time. How were you in the past with monster trucks?
I will tell you in the past with monster trucks, growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of childhood, but I can remember, of course, everybody says the same thing and everything about the first, the Bigfoot car crush and everything else. And I can remember because back in the day, Pedersen Off-Road magazine was a big deal. And, you live by that. It's like, it's just like Hot Rodder magazine. You live by those guys, you read all the articles and you could do everything you could do. And that's how you learned a lot of this stuff. But I never really was one that I didn't have a lot growing up. I mean, I wasn't a poor kid, but, we were very, very medial family. And, it's one of those things where I always loved them, but I really never said a whole lot unless you were around me enough as a kid. I mean, I would daydream in grade school and draw monster trucks. And I wish today I still had some of those drawings, but I can remember bringing them home, and they'd have them later on the table or whatever. But I never really talked about monster trucks. And it's because I just didn't ever think I was in that realm. And from, my past and my growing up, my dad was very instrumental in me being very mechanical. But monster trucks were so far out of the realm. I mean, a lifted truck, when I was 16, I was dreaming of a lifted truck, and I had to go out and I got a job, did my thing to get my first lifted truck. But I really never really said, oh, man, monster trucks. And I didn't have a whole room full of things of Bigfoot or anything like that. I just didn't do that. So a lot of ways, there was a lot of my friends that really never realized how much I really enjoyed monster trucks. I just didn't say it. I wasn't like every time I saw a big lifted truck, I didn't go, crazy in front of my buddies over it, But as life went on and starting to watch how the sport progressed and things like that, I really started to pay attention and watch. And I always watched from the sidelines. I didn't go to a whole ton of events, I can remember seeing Michigan Ice Monster back in Buchanan, Redbud, and that was a big deal for me. But I never really raved about it. I didn't go home and go, oh my gosh, you ought to see Michigan, Ice Monster. It was so cool. And I didn't do that. So, my drawings and stuff as a kid, you could kind of tell, but for the most part, no, it wasn't like I just lived and breathed them. I've always loved trucks. Lifted, didn't matter. Lowered, it didn't matter. I always loved them. But I think later on in life, and very later on in life, I saw an opportunity and I had the wherewithal to be able to do that. And basically that started when Jim Jack retired and decided that he was going to sell. And, it's still a lot of money. I don't care what everybody says, it's an expensive sport. It's an expensive hobby or business, however everybody wants to look at it. I try to treat it like a business every chance I can get. But, there's just certain things that it's hard because it almost becomes a hobby or it becomes a job. Just depends on the day or, the week of the month. But that's how it really started for me. And when I had an opportunity, I saw that. Now, let me backtrack just a little bit. George Eisenhart Sr., him and I were friends. We offshore raced together with Tyler Crockett Marine Engines, and actually the guy, he's actually the one that builds all my engines for these trucks. And back in the day, we'd all race, and we're racing offshore. We were all over the Eastern Seaboard. We were in Florida, wherever we needed to go race offshore. Well, George Eisenhart Sr. knew Jeff Cook through George Eisenhart Jr. So obviously, we all know who George Eisenhart Jr. is for us out there in the world. And Jeff Cook used to run for him in all over the country and do those things way back in the day. Well, George Eisenhart Sr. decided to take me and introduce me to Jeff Cook, in which anybody knows, he's really big instrumental in the, Monster Truck Hall of Fame Museum, which everybody knows. The invasion of Butler, by the way, was just absolutely epic. It was bad to the bone. You should have been there. If you weren't, sorry about your luck. But anyway, short story is so I went and I met Jeff, and that's kind of how the shredder truck came. That was the tribute truck. That was the Hawk. That was the, the tribute truck for Samson, things like that. Well, of course, Jeff was like, well, I'll sell it. So that's kind of where that's my very first shot. So it's just one of those things that just kind of really just escalated from there. Again, I had the wherewithal to be able to do that. And also it allowed me to see if I even had the guts to do or, put the work in to even remotely think I could do this game and play in monster trucks. And so when you look at that aspect of it, once I got that truck, of course I was hooked. I mean, it was like, okay, I got a monster truck, but now I got to move it. You know, it's
And
really
that's
cool, but I got to move it.
So how did
and
you
that's
come
the
up
part
with the name?
where we're all trying to talk at once.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'll stop. Cut. Brad, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you were mentioning, it's time to move it. Like that's where it's like nut up or shut up. Like you mentioned, you were a fan of trucks and you watched the monster truck shows as a kid, but no, and growing up, now you have it. It's time to actually do it. You've thought about it. You said you had the wherewithal to do it. Now it came time to do it, and that's the most important part. People can talk about it until it's time to be about it.
You're exactly correct. And so, of course, it was a sprung truck. It was basically Jeff built that truck to be a promotional truck and, do some small, different type shows with it, some exhibition stuff. It wasn't built to leave the ground necessarily of any kind of heights. So, I would go out and I'd mess with the truck. I do have a test track of my own that I would go out and I'd mess with and check it out and see how it would react and all that. And then I got a few different opportunities to go and display. And then I got some opportunities to actually go and do car crushes, what we call old school car crushes. And so, there was a day there that I had the truck for probably a year and a half or so, I'm guessing. And so Jeff's like, hey, will you bring the truck down and do an old school car crush for me? We're just going to do this little deal. And I'm like, all right, perfect. It'd be great. I think it's awesome. Well, there was a minivan. And of course, I thought, well, that's not a big deal. You just hit the side of it, should roll up and be fine. And I'd go over the top of it. Well, I hit this minivan pretty hard. And when I landed, it landed really hard. It like to drive me slam through the seat. And so we got all said and done. Jeff comes up to me and goes, hey, you need a race truck. He said, you're going to kill yourself or kill the truck, he says. So at that point, it was one of those, Jeff, you're right, because I really hurt, and I can almost remember the day is, that weekend, that day. And I think, I still feel that pain from that day alone, not alone anything else I've done since then. But, so, yeah. And then, from that point, I go, okay, well, Andy Hoffman happened to be there with a Nightmare truck. And I went up to Andy and we'd gotten along really well. And I said, Andy, I know this is a big ask, but hey, do you think I could take after the show and everybody's kind of gone? Do you think I could go ahead and make a couple hits with the race truck, your truck? Well, sure. If you want to do that, you can do that. Well, after I did that, it was over. I knew it was race truck time, So Shredder is still very important to me. And I love that truck just like I did the day I got it. But I also knew that I knew I could do it. I had some talent there to be able to take and go forward with that talent. And once I got into Andy's Nightmare truck, that was over with. I mean, from that point, it was history. So I started looking for a race truck, and that's where, obviously that's where Jim Jack retiring, and that's when the truck was for sale. And I actually found it on Racing Junk, is where I had actually found it for sale. So that's how it started from that point.
So with that, how did you get connected with Jim Jack? Did you get a hold of him, or was it through word of mouth through other racers?
Well, on Racing Junk, there was a phone number. Okay, so I called the number, and forgive me for the folks that were actually selling it, and I don't remember their name, but I know I believe they were out of Illinois, and they were brokering the truck to sell it for Jim Jack. And so, I called them, I talked to them a little bit, told them who I was, not that I'm anybody, but at least so that they knew, I was serious about the truck. And so they emailed some photos and things over. Well, it was very difficult because there were some questions and answers that were going back and forth, but it really wasn't, I guess for me, it really wasn't going very far, very fast. Okay. So I'm at the office. I own a collision shop by day, so that's what I do for a living. And I'm at the office and my phone rings. Now it's an odd number and I haven't a clue, but okay, I'll answer it. And it had to be Jim Jack himself. And so I was really stunned by the fact that I got to talk to Jim Jack, and he's like, hey, how serious are you? And, and I said, well, I'm pretty darn serious. And he's like, okay, well,
The news is kind of how.
Sorry, my phone kicked
No,
on.
that's
My
all
bad.
right. No,
go ahead, continue on.
But anyway, so then, we got to talking, and he says, well, the truck is down here at my house in Florida. And I'm like, all right. I said, well, is there opportunity or time I can drive down, take a look at it, see what it's about? He's like, yeah. So we talked back and forth about what it was. And he just said he was kind of ready to be off the road. He's been kind of tired of it for the last few years. And, he was ready to do something different. So, okay, great. So it turned out, I don't think after I got off the phone with them, I don't think it was 2 or 3 weeks, and I was taking off on a Friday night, and I drove to Florida to look at that truck. And, of course, it's pretty cool because, down in Florida, they have Quonset huts and stuff down there. So the hauler's in the yard, the truck's in the Quonset hut. And so, we meet up, we talk to each other, we go back there, we look at the truck. And, the truck at the time you could tell that it needed a little bit of help because it had been run. It's just a truck out there on the trail doing its thing. So we agreed to a price, and I said, okay. So I had a little bit of money with me. So I gave it to him, put it down. And so I had a trip I had to go to Texas for a couple of weeks with my daughter's horse shows. And I said, maybe on the way back from Texas, I'll just stop and I'll grab it, Okay, that'd be great. Well, it turned out that wasn't going to work. So I planned on getting the truck about 5 to 6 weeks after I originally saw the truck. And I think I went down like the third week after that and got it because it just wasn't working in the cards, the plans to be able for me to make all that happen and arrange all that. So I went back down and I purchased the truck and I brought it back. And I'll tell you, it was a very, very good experience, and it's been a great experience to this far with that. I learned a lot, and I still learn a lot every day. And I have a lot of guys in my corner I can call and go, hey, I'm struggling with this, or what do you think about this? And I don't know if anybody knows, but Jim Kohler doesn't live very far from me. Him and I are maybe like 8 miles apart, maybe. So I talked to him quite a bit. I've talked to several guys in the industry that helped me a lot, but I just jumped in with both feet. I didn't hesitate. I go, I'm going to try this. I can do this, so I'm going to try this. And I thought if I didn't do it, I'd regret I never did it. So that's why I did what I did. It's been great.
Did you know of the truck's history, with it running back in the mid to early 2000s? Did you know of the truck beforehand, or was this your first time kind of hearing about the Reptoid name and everything about it?
No, I knew the truck beforehand. I didn't know every piece of history of it originally. So what I did is, obviously, once you see it's for sale and you talk to somebody about it and that thing, what I did is I actually got online and I started researching, just looking and see, where the truck had been, how old it was, how long he had campaigned it, that sort of thing. So I knew, I remember the truck. I remember seeing it somewhere along the way through my life of, going to school and getting a job and becoming an adult, as we call it. And but I didn't know a ton of the history. I was more just infatuated with the fact that I was going to be in a race truck, and I had a really cool body on it. And I thought, man, we could really do some really neat stuff with it. And so I knew a little bit, but I didn't know enough to go, well, I want to stay away from that truck, or whatever it was. It wasn't like that for me. I just felt like it, to be able to enter into the industry the way I got to enter into it, and not putting my life on the line or putting everything up for hock for it. Honestly, that's the way I looked at it and go, you know what, I'm pretty talented. I can make anything go,
That's pretty cool. And then, so you get the truck, and you switched. I think you came up with the green, right? The dark green kind of look of the Reptoid, right? But what modifications did you have to update on the truck? Because we never really saw the truck that much during the kind of the late years of Jim Jack owning it. So what was all the changes you had to do to that chassis?
There was a lot of things that had to be done to the chassis. The chassis had been, if I remember correctly, and my memory serves me, I think the chassis was built in either 94 or 96. So when you look back at chassis in 94 and 96, and when you look at when I purchased it, essentially it was behind times, but I felt like I could make it really do what I needed it to do. So when I first brought it home, obviously, I did just a treatment on it, draining oils and, nut and bolting and checking U-joints and trying to go through it to see just how sturdy this truck was ready to go for the next rounds, and it was really kind of cool because it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. The motor had still some life in it, and it wasn't really just all, a twisted up mess or anything like that. You could tell he had maintained it. He maintained the hauler the same way. You could see the importance of how he maintained and how he did his level when he was out doing it and traveling in the country and doing it. So was there a ton of work to do on it? Not really. No, there really wasn't. of course, I had to learn how to do some of this and taking things apart. I didn't crew for a team. I didn't do anything that. I just went right out and I bought a truck and said, well, let's see what happens. That's how that really went. So.
Scott Bryant, he's one of our fans, but he's a very good historian. You know that. He was actually saying that he thinks that the chassis was older than 96. So
and he
it
may
could
be
be.
right.
Yeah,
he's right. I think if my memory serves me correct, I believe it was a 94 chassis. If my memory serves me correct, because Jim Jack and another gentleman or a couple other people had built that chassis from my understanding of it from back then. But yeah, it wasn't like it was 88 or anything like that. I know it was in the early to mid 90s. I just don't remember the exact year.
But what's kind of crazy about that chassis was how far advanced it was. Not a lot of trucks had the square or the rectangle cradle frame, and the motor actually sat pretty low for a truck like that. And it looked like that truck was easy to reassemble, disassemble for like first quarter prep. It was wide. It always reminded me of a rectangle shape type, very rectangle square truck. Another truck that always reminds me of that is Mentz's Max D or / Goldberg type truck was very like that too. But I mean, for its time, I think it was a very, very, very advanced, and not a lot of people seem like they were going back then the direction that Reptoid truck was. Now you kind of look at that chassis and it looks just like today's race trucks, but it was built in the early 90s.
Yeah, and you're correct, because of course I looked at a lot of different trucks as I started getting into monster trucks with that chassis, and I started looking at different angles and different things. And when we were doing that back then, we were looking at going, yeah, I can see how that works. Okay, I see the cradle's maybe a little bit shorter on this truck today than this one. So there was a constant evolving of that truck and chassis. There was so many different changes that it had went through. To be quite honest with you, I think the truck was almost like driving a new truck every year or every season I came out, or whenever our season started, depending on when we started our shows. But it just seemed like every time I got in the truck at the beginning of a season, it was like driving a brand new truck, because we had changed so much. We had strengthened the truck. We had moved some things around. We had angled shocks. We've changed all kinds of different dimensions and things like that. And some of it was for ease of repair, and some of it was just to see if we could make the truck even land better or move better or whatever it was. We wanted to see if we couldn't free that truck up and give it a little bit more wingspan, if you will.
Right. So, I mean, you get ready for your first show with the truck. And if you remember correctly, I mean, how was that experience? Seems like every single time, I put this in the heart, every single time you're in a race truck and you're running the truck is a learning experience. How was the experience for you in a show vibe atmosphere when, you're now competing against other monster trucks?
It's funny because, I can tell you I was really nervous, and, I didn't understand the industry. I just thought I would understand it. And, I look at it and I had my own vision of when I entered in the industry to go and compete against other monster trucks. And I'll tell you that what I found very, very surprising and very, very good is that, I pull into my first show and I don't really know the guys that I'm running against. I mean, I know the trucks. I've known them. I hear them. I've been around it a little bit. And so I'm nervous about how I'm going to be accepted. Okay, are they going to come up and go, oh boy, here we go. Here's a guy that knows nothing and can't, drive or whatever it was, and it's okay. I understand and can respect that train of thought. I really can. So my first experience of show, I pull in, I'm thinking I'm prepared. I'm nowhere near prepared. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I was a rookie. Here we come. I had a couple of crew guys, and we were going at it, and we weren't missing for nobody for nothing. Overall, did we do well? Yeah, we did pretty well, for being out there making some really first hits. I had tested and played with the truck a little bit before I went out, but overall, we did pretty good. And I think the best part about it was, even though we didn't look like we were all together and we were rookies, and some of the guys come up, offered a hand and offered some advice and things like that, with the rig or whatever way we were doing tires or whatever it was. And it was really neat because by the end of the night, I had everybody come up and said, I think that's probably the hardest and the fastest and the highest I've ever seen that truck go in all the years I've ran with that truck. And I'll tell you, and I can tell you, I can point out at least 3 of the drivers that night that said that. And I was just very belated, and I was very happy to hear that, because I didn't want any negativity. I wanted as much positivity and reinforcement and help from the veteran guys, And it was really neat to see how much they actually would come up, and they all said that, and it was neat. I think that was probably, I was crazy nervous. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I was really nervous, but when the night was done, I had to actually sit down and sit there, and I had to just think about and reflect on the night and whatever all the guys had said. And we got a chance to talk after the show, and it was really nice to have that. So my first experience, very nerve-wracking, but my first experience was absolutely great. Great.
We were talking about his first time. Oh, we were talking about his first experience with the Reptoid truck, racing, doing shows.
So kind of going along with that, what was the thing, because Reptoid in the 90s and such, and in the early 2000s, the body style was very popular, I don't know if you guys touched on this or not, but what was the reaction from the crowd and the fans, when you got the truck and people started seeing it run a little bit harder than it had been, and what was the reception that you got from that?
Most all the reception I got is you have every demographic of fan out there at these shows. And the one was, it's great to see Reptoid back out and running again. It's really great. And my gosh, it looks great. You're doing a great job with it. It's, and that was the first initial reception I get. And still to this day, I'll get somebody that comes in that's, really a historian and really somebody that really follows monster trucks and go, it is so neat to see Reptoid back out on the the race tour again, and that makes you feel good. And everybody that's looked at it, even with the the synergy green color and the different lettering and things like that, everybody loves it. I've not heard anybody go, man, that thing's really horrible. Everybody's really accepted it. I know there's some people out there that would probably rather see it looking like. My understanding is they used to call it the Fruit of the Loom truck back in the day on the tour, because it had all the multiple colors and things on it, which I can show you that hood. I have the #1 original hood on the wall here in my shop. Plus I have that Fruit of the Loom color hood that I started running when I bought the truck. And then the first year I campaigned that coloring. And then after that is when I went to the Synergy Green. But I had a really good reception. And to this day, I still get very good reception of it. They love to see it out, and they really think it's neat. And they really like the way it looks.
So one question Scott Bryant wants to ask is, what was the wheelbase of the old chassis? The wheelbase.
If my memory serves me correct, because, it was funny. We were just talking about all this the other day, and that wheelbase was up near, I want to tell you, somewhere around 148 inches to 149 inches. 148 and a half comes to mind. I think if I look at my notes up here on the wall, I probably could actually tell you. It's just what I do. I measure and make sure things are square, and I keep a comparison on that chassis, and it stayed pretty square for us, so that was really good. But it was up there. It was up there in the higher 140s, and I'll tell you, that was a really good thing in a lot of ways. But then there were some other things I felt that hindered it having that long wheelbase.
I was going to let you take the next one, Dad.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of another question.
So outside of the Reptoid, you also came up with another identity of another famous Michigan monster truck. One gentleman, Greg Anderson, is on here, and he said he actually drove the original one, and that is the Hammer Time truck. A lot of people may know the Hammer Time's history in the late 80s, early 90s monster truck scene. It was on ESPN quite a few times during the 91-92 season, and ran a lot of shows around the Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. I call it Big Ten country. Wisconsin, stuff like that. So How did that come about on the Hammer Time name for the second identity of the chassis that you had?
Ideally, the Hammer Time name, because I was at the time I was running for Larry Hatt and Dan there with Michigan Monster Truck Shootout, and I had said to them, we kind of need to create maybe another body or name, and not that I don't love the Reptoid at all, because it's actually I don't know what it is. I just love the body. I love everything about it, but I thought it'd be kind of neat to change it up, look over a different hood or look at just a different design or color, or just stand outside a truck with a different body and design. But that's kind of how it came about, because I know Larry and Dan had campaigned that truck at one point, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of historians out there can tell me way more about exactly who, when, and where, and why than I can. But, based on the conversations that Larry and Dan and I had about the Hammer Time, they're like, hey, it'd really be cool if you brought out a Hammer Time truck. I said, yeah, so, how's that work? Is it, non-existent, whatever? Well, we sold it, but it hasn't been out in years. And so it was kind of one of those kind of conversations. Do I recall exactly everything that was said when we were having a conversation? No. But I do recall it really wasn't out. I didn't see it anywhere. I did a little bit of research. Most of the research I saw on it seemed to be the Dan and Larry, when they were in that era when they were running it. So I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. So I decided I would go ahead and get a 213 Chevrolet body, and then I wanted to, give it a newer kind of a flair or look than trying to just fade paint, from panel to panel. I did it within decals. So I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. So I did that, and I really enjoy running the body. I always figure if somebody wants to see Hammer Time at a show, all you got to do is ask, because it's hanging here on the wall as well. Just waiting for the next round or whatever. But that's where it came really concepted. Is it was really neat to be able to have, somebody say it would really be cool if you did that, because we ran that trucker, Dan drove that trucker, however that conversation went in that time. I thought, well, then let's just do that. So that's why I did it. That's really where it came from.
One question I was thinking of, with you mentioned that you're not that far from Jim Kohler, being in Michigan and such, and Michigan and the states around there, are kind of known for some of the more iconic monster trucks. You obviously got Avenger with Jim Kohler. You had Dan Evans, a Destroyer, I believe was from Michigan. Do you think why do you think Michigan's kind of a hotbed for some teams? Is it because it's closer to Canada? Why do you think that?
I really don't know why I think that, because I can tell you another really good friend of mine, Alan Pizzo, came out of Millington years and years ago. And, for anybody who doesn't know, he lives in Brentwood, Tennessee now. And, at one time we were really talking, and Alan was very instrumental in helping me in the very beginning when I purchased this truck to, give me a little bit enlightening on shows and, things like that, what to expect, sort of things like that. And, he told me, he says, why I picked down there in Brentwood, Tennessee? And I go, no. He goes, well, first off, how long it took me just that 2 or 2.5 hours to get out of the state of Michigan to even go to a show. And he's right, because we got to drive straight south, right? Any of us do. So the deeper, the farther north we are, the farther we got to drive to get out of the state. So it's time wasted. But he decided he was going to move there for the standpoint is he can go anywhere in the country to any show and be there within a decent amount of hours. I thought it was a great idea. To answer the actual question you asked, I really don't know why that we have the trucks in Michigan and why we have. I feel like we have a pretty good fair amount of trucks in the state, but I don't know why that is. I really don't. I don't know if living next to Canada really has a lot to do with it. I really don't. Right now, I'm glad that we didn't rely on that, because obviously nobody can come either back or to or from. It's locked up really tight over there. So I've got some friends that live over there, in fact, and it's really tough for them right now.
As a Canadian, I can attest. Even though I live on the western side of Canada, I can attest to that. It sucks.
Yeah, and it sounds like really as much as I'll use Michiganders, and not alone all of us, but Michiganders especially, it just seems like we've had a really kind of a raw deal in the last 14, 15 months of this game, and we think we really got it horrible. And when you read and you watch and pay attention to what Canada's doing, honestly, you guys got it way worse than we do. I'm not going to try to even sugarcoat any of that. You guys certainly do. In fact, one of my buddies, his mud truck is here. We were actually building it in the middle. We just started just before COVID all blew out. And his truck is still sitting here at the shop because he can't get it back across the border. He can't come over to get it. So, and it's like, we put roll bars in it. We redid the four links. I mean, Chris Wilhart with Standing Tall Motorsports. I mean, he's the one that's instrumental in really helping this gentleman with the truck. And it's just a shame because most of it's finished, but there's some things that they wanted to do so that welding seat brackets in so that Todd could fit in it correctly and things like that. But you guys got it way worse than we do. And it's no fun here. It's not at all. So I can't even imagine trying to describe the Canadian side.
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah, I hear you on that. So you had the Reptoid truck for a few years, and when did you start thinking it's time to put a new piece underneath the body of the Reptoid? When did you thought to yourself, okay, we need to update even the chassis?
I would tell you really updating the chassis was probably in the works for the last, just say 3 to 4 years. Watching how other trucks worked, how it went. Now, not that the old chassis was horrible, because it wasn't, but I'm the kind of guy that thinks, well, this is really good, but I think it can be better type guy. And so I go, well, I think the chassis, as far as it can go before you start really having to totally modify it, just for aforementioned, is cutting the cradle out from underneath it and rebuild a new cradle. Well, that's how you're going to get geometry. That's kind of how you're going to get updated movements, whatever it is. And, it just didn't seem like that was even anything that would be really worth kind of doing. At this point, you might as well go ahead and look at a chassis, even if it was to build a new one myself, or purchase somebody else's chassis. So about 3-4 years ago, it was really kind of decided. My crew guys at that point, were like, what, this is really cool, but I think that we could do a lot more with a newer updated chassis. And I go, you're right, but it just isn't in the cards right now. Whether it was economic times, whatever it was, it just wasn't in the cards for me at that point.
With the amount of people building chassis these days, you have Kohler building their own chassis. You got, Eddie Machka chassis. You have PEI. You have the metal shop. You ended up going with the PEI. What was your decision with going with a Patrick chassis rather than all these other companies that are out there?
I can honestly tell you, I can't say anything about. I've seen the metal shop chassis; they're phenomenal. I've seen, you got RCD out there. You got all these guys out there. But when I first started needing parts for the monster truck, I wanted updated knuckles. I wanted to change the steering, geometry. I wanted to do all that. I went right to PI and I called them. Of course, they're in Circleville, Ohio, so they're not far from me. It's 5-6 hours, whatever it is, and so when I started looking at what they had and how they did things, it was really neat. I really liked the idea of how they operated, how they machined things, and I really felt they were methodical and put a lot of time and thought and energy into their design. And, we all know that Dan has always been, those guys over there has always been redesigning their chassis to make them a little bit different, stronger, whatever it was, because as they were building them, they were seeing them out there and being run, and you could see, the goods, the bads, and the uglies, whatever it may have been at that time. I can't speak for everything, but at the end of the day, I just saw how they operated and what they did, and I really liked their fit and finish. I liked the, everything about them was just so methodical. And then when I got to go over there and actually see the shop and see what they did and how much time they spent on certain things and how they designed and developed things, I was just hooked. I just said, this is where I want to go. Now, I'm not saying that there's not any other chassis out there. I didn't look at any, so I can't speak for anybody else. But Dan and I got along real good. Rick and Chris and Allie, and I mean everybody over there. We've gotten along really good over the last several years, and it's like that's the place I want to be. I like just how he operates and what he does, and their train of thought over there is really I'm right on board with it.
Well, we'll continue on about this new truck, but I got some questions for you. Well, one guy, James McLean, he said, where did your hauler come from, or did you build it? It is as nice as your race truck. I still need a lift gate spec.
Well, James can actually, he'll see me next month when we're over there to the grand opening for the new museum in Butler, Indiana. I know I saw him here a couple weeks ago when we did the invasion, and he had asked me about it. But, it gets so busy and things are going on. He was busy doing things. I was busy doing things. So we never really got to take a look at the tailgate on the hauler. But to answer his question, the hauler actually Jim Jack made. he had a Morgan body designed and made, and then they set it on the chassis for him. As far as how or who cut the trailer to make it so the tongue was longer to go up underneath the chassis and hook onto the pintle hitch like it did, I really didn't. Jim and I really didn't get too deep into that, but Jim was the one that actually designed that box and had Morgan put it together for him and put it on there, and then he went through and did his own interior work and things like that, and made it to whatever he needed or his needs. And in fact, I can tell you the ceilings are really high in that hauler, and one of the things I can remember is I was looking at it when we were on it down there to look at the whole team, and there was black marks, 3 of them, every so often with screw eye hooks in the ceiling, and I could not figure out for the life of me. And I finally said to Jim, I go, "What's with the eye hooks, and how come there's black marks, 3 of them every so often?" He goes, "Well, I fly model airplanes, so when I get on the road, I hang them upside down on the ceiling so I have a place to haul them. They don't get hurt, they don't get broke or nothing." So he would take his model remote control airplanes and tie them upside down in the ceiling of the hauler. And then that way they were out of the way and they didn't have to be smashed or anything else. And when he had a few days off or whatever, he'd go fly model airplanes wherever he was at. So but that was Jim Jack's design. He did all that. And all I did was when I got it, I essentially gutted it and I expounded on a few things that I thought would be better and or that would work or serve my needs better than or for me versus him. So, but he's the one that originally designed and had that built.
You ever tried model airplane flying?
I have. I tried it on a simulator because I thought that'd be the best place to start. And I will tell you, and I'm not lying, because I don't like to fly real life. I have flown. I just don't like to do it. But I'll get on a helicopter. If that gives anybody any idea how kind of a kooky guy I am, I'll get on a helicopter knowing damn well they don't hover. They just crash. Okay. Or at least with a small plane, you have an idea of gliding maybe, or at least a chance of gliding to get down where you lessen your blow. But I'm really obsessed. I'd love to learn how to fly model helicopters. But it's the most difficult thing anybody ever says. And probably when I retire, eventually I'll learn how to do that. But yeah, I have not tried a real one because I know exactly what will happen. I'll have it embedded into the side of the house, tree, just slam into the ground. That's just what it'll be for me. I do have a lot of RC cars and trucks, though. I am an RC fanatic. I got lots of them.
Well, I was just going to say that's why I do sim racing because, I don't think I'd be the best racer, but online I can pretend I'm Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep. You always feel better online, right? And then you go out there, you think you go to try it, and you go, man, I think I was better actually sim racing, But yeah, I did okay on this flying simulator. My biggest thing and I actually talked to a pilot years ago, and I said, I'm learning to fly with a simulator on a computer, but it never seems like I can never get the runway square. And he said, well, that's because it's the way that simulator is. It doesn't really simulate your 3D like you really need it to be able to fly real airplanes, And as we're sitting there, we're looking at his brand new 6-seater, and we were down in Talladega, Alabama, actually. And we were looking at it. He's telling me about all this, and I go, "Oh wow, okay. So no wonder I can't land one of those damn things. I can take off great. I can make myself really good. I can do all kinds of stunts, but to land it, no. I was in the pucker brush, destroyed, whatever. It's just what it was.
Yeah. Well, I bought my dad an RC airplane, like a 4U Corsair, World War II plane. That thing now has strings and it's hanging on the wall because my dad fears. I guess I gave him 2 of a high advanced airplane that, well, it was a styrofoam fuselage, styrofoam wings, stuff like that. So it's, if you break something, you crash it. I mean, you basically, buy the parts and you put it back together.
Right.
I didn't realize the motor and stuff that came with it. And it's a hot dog. It flies. And, well, after 1 or 2 passes, grounded. So, short-lived, retired, not fearing about, it did its stuff and it's done. It's hanging on the wall. It's flying forever in my basement and my dad's, man cave basement. So it's chasing like a Japanese Zero. So it's like, it's pretty cool. But, speaking about RCs, Chris Wilhite asked about your giant scale monster truck and jumping snowbanks in the yard.
Well, it's no secret. Most of us have raminators that are out there for, the raminator truck. And uh, this last winter, we had a little downtime before it was too crazy. Maybe even the winter before. Hell, I don't know. Everything's been rolling together with this whole COVID. But anyway, so we decided I get it running one night, and he wanted to see it run. And actually, Chris is my crew chief. If anybody doesn't know that, Chris Height that's asking the question is actually my crew chief. But anyway, so the short story is we go out there and I plow snow in the driveway and the lot around the shop here at my house. And we decided we're going to jump it off snowbanks. And bigger than life, I actually broke a damn axle in that thing. And the wheel went flying off of it. And so we both looked at each other. We're laughing. Okay, this is like midnight. We're just blowing off time, steam, whatever. And the wheel falls off of it. We both looked at it. It's just like a real damn monster truck. So, of course, I got a call and I order new axles. Well, axle shafts for that truck are $85. So if anybody knows anything about those raminator trucks, and I'm sure, Cheech, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, that was one of our highlights of one of those nights, just trying to get away from the truck. And I probably at that time we were in a daily grind doing something with it, getting things ready to go or whatever. But yeah, we tore the wheel right off of that thing. It looked like a real monster truck. And I said, oh, I can't believe that. That's the first time Chris ever actually got to see the thing run. And I jump it off this, it's 3 or 4 foot snow mound, come down on the left front, and it just snapped the wheel right off and sent it across the driveway.
Yeah. we have 4 of them we have to tour with during the Ram stuff, and 2 of them are raminators, 2 of them are ramunitions. So yeah, a bad thing is they break just as worse as a real monster truck. If you get it going, they're on the pits and the hot pits, the cold pits, more than sometimes the monster trucks do. But it's fun. It catches people's attention. I do one thing I do is apologize of all the people that are getting tricked about those ads. We have nothing to do with it. The $87 raminator trucks they would get. No, we have nothing to do with that. Primal has nothing to do with that. That's just a huge scam. And you're gonna lose $87. You spend a pretty penny on the real deal, but you get the real deal if you spend that pretty penny. I'm just giving a heads up. So if you see those ads, those are scams. You ain't gonna get the real deal.
It's funny because you're exactly right. I just saw one of those ads. It was either today or yesterday, and I thought, it's funny how that works. If anybody out there knows about Primal and really can get online and really pay attention, Primal makes a really nice product. They really do. But it's like anything. We all push it to the limit. It's a hobby. It's a sport. It's, every one of us are going to push everything to the limit on those. So for me, breaking an axle off or whatever it was just part of the hobby. It was part of the sport. Not a thing you can do about it. But you're exactly correct about that ad. That ad's not anywhere near correct on what you're going to get versus what they're showing you in a picture.
It's ridiculous that they can pull some of the stats, pull stuff like that. And I do quickly want to ask this: was there any liquid courage involved with that? Big jump, breaking the axle off.
There might have been a teaser or 2 of that. Yeah, we get that winding down. We don't drink a lot in the shop when we're like really working and trying to get things going, or we're trying to figure something out, or whatever we're doing. Chris and I really don't drink a lot until it's over with. And a lot of times it's funny because he'll look at me or I'll look at him and I'll go, it's beer time. Yep. And it'll be, sometimes it's maybe, 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's 4 in the morning, but it's beer time. And then we'll have a beer and then off the bed you go because you've had a day, you've had an evening, you've had an all-nighter, so whatever it was. And, anybody knows these monster trucks, there's the hours are the hours. You can't do anything about that. That's just part of the nature of the beast in the game. I always say it's like having a second and third shift job sometimes,
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that just, it sounds like, that was like a, maybe a 2 beer deep thing. Let's try that.
Yeah. Well, nothing would surprise me. I don't recall that exact evening, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least. There certainly wouldn't. I mean, hell, in the years ago, I got a basketball hoop mounted up here in the shop, and years ago, we'd get done maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning working on trucks, and we would shoot baskets for a half hour, 45 minutes just to wind down, and then we would go on and separate and go our ways or whatever, go home, go to bed, whatever it was. It's just depending on the evening and what we had going on, and then there's other nights we putter. I can tell you the drain plug's out of the monster truck behind me right now. I drained oil earlier, but I won't let you see the oil mess because I let it get out of held it hand for a moment. But you can if you want. I don't really care. But I just let it drain. I'll sit and let it drain for hours. That's it. Then I'll go in later on after we're done here. I'll go and put drain plug back in and do a few things that I want to do to it and put oil back in and things like that. So it just depends on the day. Depends on what's going on. I mean, I can tell you that we're going to a mud bog in Hale, Michigan here this weekend. And Chris's mega truck standing tall is right behind, Reptoid sitting here in the shop. We're getting that ready. And Chris was thrashing on that today. And because he works second shift, so he doesn't get here until 11:30 at night. So then I work through the day at the collision shop, and then I'm here working or I'm doing whatever I need to do. And then by the time he gets here, sometimes I'll be already in bed, and sometimes I'll be waiting to do whatever we need to do. We got some things to do on his truck tonight, getting ready for Friday. But that's just what we do. We've been doing it really since COVID started. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot going on. So all last year when there was no events going on, we just tried to make everything that we have, better, faster, stronger, whatever it was. So we've been certainly busy. There's no rest for the wicked here,
That's what we did. That's what we did during COVID, was basically all the stuff that we thought that we need to get done sooner than later definitely became sooner. Getting the rigs, basically doing first quarter prep on our trucks in late spring, early summer, just for the rest of the year, and then going through the rigs, going through the semis, basically catching up stuff that we never really had time to do because we're so busy doing shows and stuff like that we finally caught up in doing it. But it's let's talk about the vehicle that's behind you. It turned a lot of heads, even though it's the Reptoid truck that a lot of people saw. It's what's underneath the truck that a lot of people are talking about, and that is the history of it. It was the past Samson monster truck, just extremely up to date and redone. Talk about how you got your hands on that truck, because this time last year it was Samson. It was doing the Joe Sylvester races. It was doing the throwdowns. It was doing all the stuff that people may not know, and now it's in your hands. So how did that transpire, and how did you get your hands in a very, very awesome piece of equipment?
When we were talking back 3 or 4 years ago about doing a chassis and things like that, it was a pipe dream for me to get a BEI chassis. But Rick and I had ran together at several shows over the last few years, and I watched how that truck worked, and I watched how it did that, and of course Dan and I would talk back and forth, and there was always banter a little bit about Dan saying, well, I think eventually we're going to build a new truck, and hey, well, I'm really interested in your old chassis, I think it's great, I think it's great for me, that sort of thing. And so Dan goes, well, I just got to see if we have time, things like that with it, if we can build a new chassis. Well, it turns out, obviously, last year there was all kinds of time, it seemed like, for most. And so, he built a new chassis. Well, I had already purchased a set of shocks from them to put on the old Reptoid chassis. And I put them on, I did some testing. It worked okay, but it wasn't really what I wanted. And so I called Rick and I said, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? I sent him some videos, sent him some, still shots. And he's like, yeah, just bring them down. We'll get together. Well, of course, it's always back and forth of, hey, you got time? And well, I'm going to be gone. And so we ended up making a time where I could go down there. Well, of course, that would have been right at the end of last year. So little did I know that the chassis was actually on the market for sale. Okay. And so when I went down there, we were just doing some shock valving or whatever. And Rick and I were talking, Dan's there. And, Chris and I go down there, take them down there to see what they could do. And we take them apart and mess with them. And so, of course, Dan's going, well, you ready to buy a new tractor, a new chassis? I'm ready to sell. I said, you're really ready to sell? He goes, yeah, I've had it listed. I go, really? He goes, yeah. So anyway, before I left that day, I had committed to buying that chassis. And, of course, Dan said, we're going to add and we're going to do some updates and, put some 2020 updates and, what motor you're going to run, what engine you're going to, transmission you're going to run, same things like that. Because, of course, they run Hemis in 2 speeds, while I run big blocks in 400, 3 speeds. So, they had to move the original motor plate and things from the Hemi. They had to move it back for the big block and to accommodate the 400 size of the 400 transmission. So there's some things that had to be changed just to fit what I run in for the power plant. And so he did that. And he said, well, we can add the bars here, and this is what we got here, and this is what we're doing now here. And he said, we'll make sure you got the good housings updated to that. And I was like, great, So by the end of the day, before I left there, the shocks were done. Rick did a great job at valving those, and I bought Samson's original running its chassis, and that's really how that transpired. It really was. I didn't go there thinking I was going to buy, the old Samson chassis by any means, at that point. But, Rick and Dan and I talked about a year prior to that about buying it, but he wasn't ready. He was thinking about building a new chassis, but just wasn't sure about time. So it worked out great for everybody, So that's how that really went down. And again, that was just before the holidays when we did that. So, but yeah, that's how that all transpired.
I just find that kind of funny. Like you go there, just going to get some valving done, get the shocks, and all of a sudden you're leaving committed buying, the old Samson. It's kind of funny how fast things change like that.
And it is, you're right, because, sometimes it just falls at your lap. You don't plan on it. It's there, and that could be for a positive and negative, it's not necessarily always positive, but to me, I was pretty positive, it's scary. Going, okay, this is a big commitment, but hey, if we're going to stay in the game, we want to keep up with the times. We want to keep up with good product, good equipment. And so that's where all that kind of landed was that. And I go, I got to do this. And it was what's really the funny part about this is because of COVID, Chris and I had a lot of time. We cut that old chassis apart and we actually re-degreed all the shocks and everything again. We were redesigning, and Chris was having some ideas of how to, hey, I think we can do this, and we can make it look like this, and and see how this will work. And so, of course, we studied some other chassis and looked at how trucks moved, and we went, okay, well, I think that'll work out great. Unfortunately, we got the chassis all done, never tested it. Of course, this chassis came along. I put the old chassis up, and it wasn't about 9 days after the chassis got put up, it was gone. And for most people out there, everybody knows that Burnhouse bought it. It's now the Super Trooper truck. But I wish I would have gotten some test hits on it just to see all the hard work and everything that we did and all the changes and see how well it worked. And but of course, I haven't talked to Vern lately to see how it works, but I have seen some pictures and I have seen a little snippets of footage here and there, and it looks like it's actually working pretty good at stretching his legs very well. So that's what we were hoping for.
And you gave him the tires too, those nice cut pulling tires.
It's funny. It's funny about that because I remember somebody making a comment somewhere on social media about it, and then I think you're the one that actually stepped up and said, "Yeah, he bought those from Hall Brothers," and I really like those tires. I really thought they would work really well on asphalt or pavement or concrete shows, and in certain aspects, I didn't think it would work on every one of them, but when I originally got them, I thought, how cool would that be? And if they didn't work there, then I would go ahead and just put them on the ride truck, and then I would just run them on the ride truck as like a turf tire, so you weren't tearing up somebody's property with it, So
the way Mark was telling about those tires is when they got it, it was kind of like in the mid 2000s to the 2010s, and a lot of the trucks like Jay Snyder when he had Illuminator. He had these pulling tires, and they liked the idea, and they got them, and a couple other liked it. Tell you what, though, Mark told me those things bite in dirt. They handled each other. They handled pretty dang good in dirt racing. But they told me, they're like, you're the one that came over and purchased it, and they're like, it was pretty cool seeing how you kept on using the tires and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool to see them still running today on the Super Trooper truck.
Yeah, it is because it's just one of those things that. I wasn't using them anymore. I've kind of changed directions. I'm looking at different, of course, the everlasting China tire. Everybody has them, and I really like them. But there's another set of tires that I have that are cut pretty nice. That I actually have to have one vulcanized. I'm pretty bummed out. I got one of the sidewalls out of one, but I'm really looking forward to running those again. But I just didn't see me ever really putting those tires back on to do anything more with them, based on the program and the way I want to go with the truck.
Have you been able to do any testing with the new truck? You mentioned you had a kind of a test track in your backyard and stuff. Have you been able to get any seat time behind the truck yet?
Oh yeah, actually, had 2 different sessions with them, And basically, when I do a test session, it's almost like a freestyle. So I try to run X amount of minutes, and yeah, we've done it. We've done it twice now. First time we had a few gremlins that worked out, and they were basically, our more of our problem than anything. The second time we just did some on Sunday night, and Sunday we had a photo shoot with a model with the truck. Sunday afternoon, early evening. And when about wrapping up the shoot, I decided I'll get in the truck and make a couple of test hits. It was still daylight enough for me to get out there to do that. And I'll tell you, the truck absolutely works amazing. I don't think right now at this point that there's anything I'm going to change on it. We're coming right out of the gate with what we have, the way it's set up right now, with the pressures, ride height, everything about it is exactly where I want it. And we're going to certainly find out next month when grand opening for the Butler, Indiana grand opening for the Monster Truck Hall of Fame Museum. We're going to do some test hits and stuff out there, do some exhibition hits out there for the fans. And I'm pretty excited about doing that.
That'd be pretty cool. Let's will you be all right to do a walk around on that truck?
Sure, I'll be all right with that. Now I only got about half the lights on in the shop. Now I don't want anybody to be hating on me because there is a little bit of splattered mud. Not big mud, just I had one hole that I had to go through to turn to do test sessions, so it's not the cleanest thing in the world. I will tell you guys that we had tested, but last time we tested, we had just gotten some rain, but I still wanted to get a little bit of testing in on it, and I hand waxed every one of those tubes. I took every chunk of Lexan out of the thing. We cleaned and scrubbed everything on that truck. Chris and I cleaned everything. Well, now we went out and we did that test session on Sunday, and I had one little small mud hole, but with those big tires, it don't take long to sling it everywhere. But yeah, I'll turn the other lights on here in the shop, and you guys can give you a walk around, see what's. Just don't nobody hating on the dirt.
Hey,
everyone loves dirt. Everyone loves dirt.
I know, but it drives me crazy. I don't like to have any of that stuff dirty. I'm just a real weirdo about that stuff. So bear with me for a minute here, and I'll turn these other shop lights on. And in fact, I'm going to be right here with all the noses that are hanging up that are essentially retired from Reptoid, and of course the Hammer Time nose is hanging there just so that it'll be out of the way. It's really hard to see because I can only see a small screen of myself and things, but I'll do my best.
I can change that. There we go.
So, but if you kind of look and see, you'll see, there's one of the original bedsides from the #1 Reptoid truck. When I purchased the truck, Jim Jack kept one, and I got one. So I just kept it, and I did that so that we could do what we wanted to do with it. So when you look up here, you can see some of the noses that Chris and I just hung them up this last winter to get them out of the way. But right there, guys, this one right here, that is the #1 nose. That is the original nose from when Jim Jack originally designed that truck.
Wow.
It's autographed by Jim Jack, but it's hanging up here in the shop. So,
Man.
And then you can look back over here. I'm having a hard time moving it, but you can look back over here. There's one of the noses. That's when I purchased the truck. That was the nose that was on it. So then I went ahead and I just retired that nose. And then you come over to here. Let me look back this way here. Yeah, there's the Hammer Time right above my head there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the Hammer Time nose, and then the original nose, and then the second nose when I purchased it, and then there's the final nose next to it that I ran this last year or year before last. So what we did with the nose that's on the truck now, it's much lighter in weight. We light a lot of things up on the truck.
So, Mark, the nose, the basis of the Reptoid nose itself, is that based off of a Chevy pickup truck, or when you got the whole operation from Jim, he gave you the whole, kit and caboodle, the molds and everything like that, correct? So,
Correct.
What was the mold based off of?
The mold actually was never based off of anything. There's not like you can't just take and think, okay, well, it's coming off of a Chevrolet fender and it goes to that. It's not. It's all its own mold. So whatever mold, a part they built, or a plug as we would call it, whatever they built, that was all hand done. There's not a body line one that gives you any indicator of anything of it coming off of any truck. No manufactured truck.
There's a question from Scott Bryant here is asking who molds the nose now.
We did one this year. We did one for ourselves. But But what I did is there was a few things that I didn't do exactly correct. Even though I'm in the collision industry, I don't do a ton of fiberglass. I mean, I do a lot of fiberglass. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a big mold. This nose is way bigger than anybody ever see until you see the mold. So of course, we did one, and then I ended up taking it over to a guy. The mold is actually on the west side of the state, just north of Three Rivers. So it's just south of Kalamazoo. And that gentleman there does a lot of bus ends and RV ends for the RV industry. And so when you look at we took it down to him, and one of my best friends from high school took it back because he came up and helped us with the truck. He took it back, and we had him make this new nose that's on the truck currently. But it's a lot lighter, it's a lot flimsier, and we wanted some lightweight. We wanted something like the nose that we took off from last year. I had that nose built by another gentleman, and he reinforced it, and it did a great job, but it weighed so much. And we decided, you know what, if we're going to do this new chassis, we're going to lighten everything else up to do that. So when you look at how flimsy this thing is, it's just way different from the other one. You couldn't do that with the other nose.
And what's the material of the teeth?
The teeth now is a 2-part foam. What I did is I wanted to go more to like it's a moldable foam. It's a modeling foam. But what I did is it's 2-part. You pour it, you put it in the mold, and it actually grows and expands. In about, just say, 3 minutes, you're pulling the mold apart, pulling the teeth out. So, of course, releasing agent for this was very difficult. So when you look at the teeth today, this new one, they're really kind of rough. See that? I'm trying to do that. There you go. It's rough. It's a little loose. But the idea of it is we like the idea of having it rough, but it's a 2-part foam. So each one of these teeth, I mean, I'll guarantee you just one main fang from the old hood weighs more than all of these combined.
Oh, wow.
So we just did a lot of weight loss, and we're going to continue to expand on these. We're going to make these a little bit different, a little bit better as time goes on. But we wanted to see how these would work. So that's what we're doing now. We're just testing all that. And of course, the jaw mechanism is a lot different. It now goes up and down. It chews up and down this way versus the way it used to do this all the time. And so now we've made it do that way. And Chris actually is the one that came up with that design. We sat here one night late and we were looking at it and we're going, he said, well, we don't have any room for it to go that way like we used to have it. So how about we make it go up and down? I go, well, yeah, let's try that. He goes, well, I got an idea. So he just took it and ran with it. So now it chews up and down.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's
pretty cool.
When you look at the truck, like I said, it's got a little bit of mud on it, guys. I know the light's a little bit glaring on it, but we've done so much work in 3 months that sleep was a premium. I'm not going to lie to anybody. Sleep was an absolute premium. It is a PEI chassis. Like I said, it's got a little bit of mud and things on it. But when you look at, the things that we did, and we had some changes that we had to make. The biggest thing is once we got the motor, everything back in the truck, with having to move the motor mounts and things, it changed the way because we run a dry sump system. So it changed the way where the pump would normally go. So by the time we were all done, now the dry sump pump now has to sit in front of the motor versus, it's hard to show you, but it has to sit in front of the motor versus down on the side of it now. So everything had changed. So we spent so much time doing that to get that to fit. And one of Chris's best friends from school actually was doing all the machine work for us. So it took a lot of time to figure out and make that work. And then, of course, my engine builder, Tyler Crockett, comes out and he looks at it. And so we get his idea of how to make all this run and all the belts work and alignment and everything else on the truck. So it was a cool challenge. It was a lot of work, even though, it doesn't seem like it. It was a ton of work.
And you mentioned earlier that you run a Turbo 400 trans, a 3-speed. What was was that what the truck had in the old chassis, or what was your idea instead of going to like a 2-speed power glide?
I always liked the third gear. It's kind of what I cut my teeth on with this truck. It always was a 400 truck. And so, of course, we looked at doing 2 speeds and I go, well, but I like the idea of having third gear. That's where I was at. So instead of me always having to change like the gearing in the drop box and things like that, I could actually essentially, for the most part, offset it with third gear on the longer tracks, just depending on what we're doing. Of course, I've still had to change gear on either the longer tracks, but I always just like having that third gear. Whether I used it or not didn't matter, but I know I had it. So if I wanted it, I could use it at any given time. I'd rather have it, not use it, than not have it and want it.
Now, Dustin James Fox wants to know if you are doing any shows in North Carolina this year. He seems like a very big fan of yours and loves the truck. He just was kind of curious on when you're planning on going to North Kakalaki.
Yeah, well, I'd love to get to North Carolina. There's a few different states that way I'd love to get to. I don't have any exact time or dates at this point with shows, but they, as well as I do, cheat shows pop up any given time. Maybe they're down a truck, they need a truck. You get a call, you'll get whatever. Though I try to really rely on that more so than trying to go out and look for shows. I want to do a lot of shows. I just don't want to do a whole bunch of shows. So if I can get to North Carolina, any chance I will take it to get there so I can run.
I got to say this. I'm jealous of that TNN Motorsports banner hanging up. That was my childhood in a nutshell.
I saw that, yeah.
I am jealous of that.
Well, hang on.
I was going to call it out.
Yeah.
I was going to call it out, but I knew Brad was licking his lips on that thing when he saw it.
Oh, that is so cool.
And I got to tell you guys, that's an original banner. That's not that's not anything. That is the number one original banner.
See, I grew up on American Sports Cavalcade, NHRA. Yep. Like, that is my childhood right there. That is so cool.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because you're exactly correct. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and all the stuff. There's my Dino, my big dinosaur from Sinclair Oil, I have a few little things around there like that we like to, mess with her. And there's a NASCAR. You guys can see that. It's on the 4-post hoist up here. That's going to be a land speed car. We're going to try to do 200 miles an hour in that car. So that's a
what kind of power plant? What kind of power plant you put in that?
It's funny because you got Tyler Crockett and myself for GM, but George Eisenhart wants a Ford motor in it. So it's really, and actually, it's actually what that car is. I got that from Richard Petty years ago. That is one of Bobby Labonte's Bristol cars. That was the first year of the COT car. That is it's a 99.
So wait a minute. Let's. I see a certain Alan Pizzo Predator.
Yeah.
Fiberglass piece. What's the story behind that one?
Well, Alan and I, we've ran together for a long time and did a lot of different things. And, we're always back and forth. We're swapping things or doing whatever we were doing. But this was there. And I have a few other panels that I won't hang them up. But I have a few other panels from that truck. We had a deal and I ended up getting some of that and that sort of thing. And it's funny because you mentioned that, because I will tell you that it wasn't too long ago that everybody was looking for those and nobody seems to can find them. So now that everybody has seen it now here live tonight, I can't imagine what kind of banner we're going to get over that, because there's a lot of people would like to have that piece. And there was one gentleman in particular who hit me up months back, and I said, how do you know I have that? Well, you took a picture and posted it one time, and I saw it in the background. And I go, oh, okay, so that's how that goes, right? So, but yeah, that's one that's not going anywhere. It's just one of those things.
I love the stories about it.
That one's precious to you.
Yeah, it's. So, I've tried really hard to kind of put up some of the pieces and parts and things that, I've gotten along the way. And, if you look over here, this is kind of where Hammer Time's bedsides live when we're not using them. The nose you saw on the other side, and then the cab, unfortunately, I had outside, and I have it on a roller so you can move it around. Well, we had a windstorm here, and a tree landed on part of it and smashed it. So, of course, we're going to be building a new Hammer Time cab here soon. But yeah, so it's just one of those things, this is what we do. And this is the standing tall mega truck of Chris's that, he was working on that, getting it prepped and ready to go for the weekend. And so we're working on haulers and trucks and doing whatever we can do to keep it we try to make everything as best we can, preventive maintenance. Cheech, you and I were talking earlier today that, we're actually vetting the truck, and what I mean by that is all the wiring. And Chris has been a very instrumental in the wiring of this truck, but we've made wiring schematics for everything on the truck, so it's all in a binder. You can go through there, and if you have an issue with, let's just say, main power switch in the panel or something, you go through and you can see exactly where everything is coming from, what color the wire is, and you can chase it real fast. Instead of trying to guess and figure it all out, you can look at that and go, yep, let's go right here to here. It could be the ground, it could be this, it could be the fuse, relay, whatever it may be. But we're vetting everything on the truck. It's just like all the hydraulic hoses. We have measured all the hydraulic lines, everything in here, and fittings, and we're putting all those together. So we tear up a front hose for some reason or another. You go to the trailer, you just grab it. It'll already be marked what it is, and you just grab it and put it on. So that's one of the big things we're doing for this year is just vetting everything so that we try to make everything as quick and efficient as we can when we're out on the road. Because, there's not a lot of time, let's be honest. I mean, you tear up something between rounds of racing, you want to try to make the next round. You don't want to miss out if you don't have to.
And that makes sense because you're preventing kind of oh shit moments happening.
Oh, dude, and you know what? And there's no. Everybody got those. And you know what? You still have times you scratch your head and you think, "What in tarnation just happened? How this thing was working flawless 30 seconds ago? Now it's gone. What happened?" So we all have them. We try to eliminate them as much as we can and avoid all that, but we always have them. At one point or another, something's going to get you. And the same old ad, it's a $4 part. It's not a $400 part. It's usually that $4 part.
The saying goes, when I learned at Monster Jam, and I still here for it, is they say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, or basically get ready for carnage and stuff like that. In the monster truck world, it's common, but like you said, like it's crazy because a lot of the parts that we get in our monster trucks, including like everyone in the world, we can't just go to Advance or we just can't go to AutoZone. Everything is going to be made either by you or by someone else. So sometimes you can't even guarantee a new part because you'll know if the guy dealing with a bad batch of metal, or or maybe the gears weren't heated, and some type of that nature. Sometimes you still have to, even though you put a new part in. I've seen it before that we put broken axle and put a brand new axle that we got from a company, put it in, broke later that night during freestyle, same as that corner. So I mean, it's crazy to think about it, but like you said, it's you just never know. It's just that's the crazy part.
It's funny you say that because the first thing you said was the way it was treated, heat treated, and you always want to know the depth. How far did the heat treat it in? Did they heat treat it enough? Or we've seen them where they're really heat treated really good, and then they get to a spot where it's not that deep. So that's our weak link, correct? So when you start seeing all that, and of course you look at it and go, "I've never broken an axle or broke something like that in the past. What the heck?" Well, of course, unless you want to dig really deep into it, of course, like you said, you just put another axle and you go. So, but you always wonder. I mean, it does happen. You're exactly correct. We can't see all that when we have those type of failures. You just can't see them all.
We got a comment here from your crew chief. It says, Mark has been very instrumental in my monster truck career. It's been a learning curve for sure, but I couldn't ask for a better mentor in the industry.
Well, I appreciate those, and it's likewise because him and I have become a really, really, really close knit. He's brought a lot to the table that I maybe my weaknesses or whatever, but I would like to think my strengths offset his strengths, and so between the two of us, we're a pretty good dynamic. And I'll tell you, this is a true story, and this just happened here 2 weeks ago. We did that testing the first time around, and we were running actually a different set of headers, so the truck was just ignorantly loud. But so we were getting ready to do the invasion of Butler down there in Butler, Indiana, and we started. We were really feeling good about ourselves, and this would have been Wednesday night. We were going to load it Thursday because we were rolling out on Friday morning, and the thing was rattling really bad. And we're like, what the heck? We got oil pressure, we got all that. So we knew it wasn't that. So then we turn around, we look, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to bed. I'm over it. I've had enough of it. I got stuff to do in the morning, whatever it was. I go to bed, and I get back up a couple hours later, couldn't sleep, whatever. I come out here, and he's got the transmission tore out of the truck. He had found the flywheel was loose. We used a specific bolt from a specific manufacturer, and some people realize as soon as I tell them it's star washers that were all flat. Well, the bolts weren't necessarily loose; they were tight as tight. We torqued them, we did everything we were supposed to, but the flat washers were flat. The star washers had flattened out, so it gave that flywheel just a little bit of movement, and that's what was rattling. and he stayed up all night so we could leave. It'd be ready so we could have it loaded and ready to leave on time to make all that happen. And that's not an easy task to do, one guy. So, he works his ass off. I'm not going to lie to anybody. He does. I even told him, I kid him one day. I said, eventually you should get your butt in this truck and you should try it. Well, I don't want to do that. That's not why I'm here. I go, I know, but there is some reward for all that hard work.
Mm-hmm. I tell you one more thing. Let the people know about some of the parts and stuff like that. I don't want them to get twisted. Those parts that those guys build are still some of the most toughest stuff in the world. If you take care of your truck with the parts that you have on your truck, they can withstand anything that you put that truck to. That's what I'm just trying to say. So if anyone's listening, I respect the guys that build the stuff, even if we put it together and stuff like that. I'm just saying that sometimes stuff fails. That's life. That's the way it goes. But you just got to go on from it. I'm just saying.
No, and you're exactly right. There's not any product out there that I can say has ever failed or is inferior by any means. Because you're right. A lot of these parts that we're all using is the toughest in the world. But you think about, what a lot of these parts go through. You think about that and you go, you're not upset when it fails because you've just beat the life out of the thing and you've done whatever you've done. It just fails. It's part of fatigue. It's everything. You do it for so long, it's going to eventually fatigue. It's just like taking a piece of metal and bending it back and forth. Eventually, it's going to break.
There's another fact that people are listening to this podcast about axles. If you just start tearing down axles and you see a little twist on the themes, do not. Where you take that axle out of, do not put that on the opposite end. Because if that happens, it's going to break. So just note to self, I'm just letting you guys know, if you're going to go, put the right side axle on the left side and there's a little bit of a twist, that next show, you're probably going to be tearing that one off and putting a new axle in. So just remember to put the right with the right and the left with the left. And you'll be all right. Just a little more, by NBC. Dun, dun, dun.
I need to overlay it. By the way, I need to get overlay graphic, and I just press the button. It just does that. The more you know with Cheech.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the star. I think it's the star, correct? The star.
With the star. Yeah, the more you know.
Yeah.
Okay. I put this on Facebook and I laughed my butt off. So I was watching the Louisville Motor Speedway 1992 Monster Truck Challenge show. It's the same episode that Rambo kind of won. The race previously on the first round, David Morris lost. And his truck just randomly stopped. Well, he found out his fuel pump was bad. The next round, he beats someone. A master of disaster, something like that. In the interview, he says, the best line ever. He says, your truck works good when you have good fuel in it. Your truck works good when you have fuel in it. It was the best line ever. And I laughed a good minute. I had to put on
pause.
Pause. I had a pause and I just laughed a good minute. He says, truck runs good when it has fuel in it. I'm like,
right. You're going, I think I did see when you posted that because I chuckled about that. And I went, okay, yep, good to know.
I gotta say that's better than the episode that we had with David. Is that my guy?
Yeah. Or he went to the Tim and Mark still laugh at this one. They did a Motor Madness show back in the day. And they're fixing Executioner. And while they're working, David comes over to help him out. And he goes, he's like, this is going to be a good excuse for you to help out, guys. Hold on, let me get my fine china. And all he had was tools from China that he got from Harbor Freight. He told the brothers, hold on, let me get my fine china out. And oh my gosh, that guy can make you laugh. And then the story he was talking about was these characters from Monster Wars back in like the early 90s, Gravedigger and the Predator and Caroline Crusher. Well, they did this thing in Tampa where the guys are jumping off of an airplane and they're all going except for one guy. And David's looking up and then the sky's all over the place. And he's like, who's the guy that can't control himself? And he finds out it's his character that's all over the place. Going, he finds out it's just the guy that's supposed to be, and he had nothing to do with it. He just kept quiet and went back in the truck and just sat there. And the guy got hung up on a steel chain fence, and that pretty much ended the day for him. But my gosh, the stories they tell. But still, I mean, it's pretty cool to see some of the history that you have, and it's pretty cool also that you're bringing back names that Greg Anderson, like the guy on our chat, he said he drove the original truck. He drove it for Jeff Bursey when Bursey had it, so that was pretty cool. But still, I mean, a lot for me. I always think of Hammer Time, Heartbeat, and Michigan Ice Monster as as the Michigan trucks. Don't get me, obviously Avenger, but back in the day, I always thought those three were the trucks that would do, that Great Lakes Dragway, all those awesome stuff. A question I normally ask mostly everyone that drives a monster truck. And my question is, what was the coolest thing you ever crushed?
I think probably the coolest thing that I ever crushed, purposely. Let's use purposely. Probably the coolest thing that I really ever crushed, I think, was I had a cube truck that I had to get into, and it was quite ironic because the way it was set up, I think it was cool for me because I had to time it right and do things to get it where I needed it so that I didn't end up, going right over the front end and, just basically lawn darting it. But I would probably tell you that's probably the coolest thing I ever crushed. I really do believe that. Of course we've done some RVs in the past, but this cube truck for whatever reason it was one of those things that I knew if I didn't hit it right, that it was nothing good was going to come from it. I was going to end up right on my roof. And knowing that I hit it right and did the right things and it did exactly what it needed to do as far as folding and getting me to get where I needed to be with the truck, I think that's probably the coolest thing. And that was an Ohio show that I did. And that was pretty cool.
Another question that we always like to ask is there a moment that kind of made you kind of pucker a little bit, pucker factor?
Hey, there's a lot of those. Let me tell you, I can tell you this for a fact. And of course, we were somewhere up by Saginaw or something years back, and they had this double jump set up, and there was a few of us sitting there, and Alan Pizzo had to be one of them, and I said, I think I'm going to clear that. He goes, I don't think you're going to be able to clear that. I said, okay. Why do you think? He said, just because of the way the front jump is, the first jump and the second and whatever. We talked about it, and I go, okay. So of course at that point I think he had me convinced I wasn't ever going to clear it, so I tried. And it was a long ways off. I mean, it wasn't super long way, but it was a long ways off. So I don't know what got over me. I go out there and I get out there for freestyle, and I decide I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this thing loose. Well, I had a head of steam, good momentum. I said, well, what the hell? I'm here. I might as well try it. And man, was he right. I ended up facing the second jump, and when I come down and I faced it, I hit it so hard it threw me forward literally in the seat. And I remember hitting it, and I ended up just gassing the truck so I could drive out of it. So it shot me way back up in the air, and I ended up driving. And when I landed out of the lights of the show arena there. I knew it was clear back there. I didn't have an issue with that, but it was the fact that when I finally landed on that second hit, I was in the darkness, but I turned around obviously and came back. But I think that was, I know that stung pretty good, and I learned my lesson from that one. I really did. That was a tough one. I had to get out of the truck and try to shake that one off.
Gotcha. Yeah, you have those moments, right?
Yep.
Which that's the way that the cookie crumbles in the monster truck world. But like they said, get back on the horse and ride.
Yep.
But is there any social media that people can follow you at?
Basically, at this point right now, because I'm not really tech savvy, I don't have a website necessarily at this point, and I truly don't, not for Reptoid Racing or anything. just watch Reptoid Racing on Facebook. They can see it on there, and obviously they'll find me personally on Facebook. Um, we were talking about websites just a couple weeks ago, and I need to get something designed and do that. There's so much apparel there that I have and that I have coming out. Of course, I want to have a way of an outlet for somebody to be able to get it. If they don't see me at a show with the apparel, then they can still have a different outlet to get it. And I'm kind of sometimes horrible about this. So people message me and I won't even see it. So, or I'll see it way late. So, and I'll admit that to anybody. I'm terrible about that. So I have another administrator that'll see it as well. So we're getting better at. So if there's something somebody wants out there, because I have a lot of sublimated stuff, hoodies, especially, and then I also have some of a couple of years, 3 years back crew shirts, because I usually try to update the crew shirts about every year to 2 years, depending on. And I have some of our old crew shirts that I have for sale as well, plus T-shirts. I mean, I got T-shirts for the Shredder Ride Truck. I have T-shirts for Reptoid, and I also have T-shirts for Hammer Time. So I have all that stuff. So, like I said, reach out. I'll do my best, because I work a day job too. So, but that's the best way to do it right now is through Facebook.
Man, it was pretty cool having you on, Mark. Thank you so much for being on. It was a good hour and 42 minutes. Not a bad episode. Right?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, because, like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this. I know you and I did something back at one of PEI's open house. We did some real brief, something together. But this was certainly this was really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I'm a fan of you guys for darn sure. So I'm certainly glad that you guys do this, because this really helps the industry and helps all of us get a little bit of recognition, and not only that, it gives us a little bit of pastime and makes us laugh.
Well, right definitely
I can't wait.
Oh, sorry, Cheech. We always talk over each other.
It's okay. Right, there's a little bit of a laggage. I was about to say, I can't wait to see that run over there at the ice flats. Maybe I'll hopefully get some decals here, and we could maybe put on the car or something like that.
Yeah, we're we were hoping for this year with that car, but there's just so many things that have happened with the way things have worked out. I know George is out of town right now, but I'm sure we'll talk next week sometime and we'll figure out where we're at. The biggest challenge we have with doing that land speed cars is that the car is designed to go left. You let go of the steering wheel. I don't care how fast you're going, the thing just starts left. Of course, I got linked up with a guy down in Mooresville, Indiana, or Mooresville, North Carolina. He actually ran with that back in the day when they were touring these COT cars, and he had set a differential up for me, a third member, because we wanted very high gear for the car. And he was telling me about it when I was talking to him, and he said, when you get ready to really take the car apart and really start, he said, I can explain to you what you have to change to make the car go straight. He said, but it's not a lot. And I thought that was really good, because I really wanted a super speedway car, figuring, they turn left, but they're more aerodynamic. They do a lot of different things, but this one will do just fine. So it's going to be fun. Cool. 200 miles an hour. Here we come.
Get her done.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Thank you guys again for having me on. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for being on too. So next week is going to be the Kim Condoni. Sorry, I'll screw up her name. She was a AT4 commentator, announcer for Monster Jam. So we're gonna talk to her about some stuff, and then tomorrow we're gonna do a audio version with Mark Wheeler. If anyone doesn't know him, he raced the Terra Duster monster truck, a Plymouth Terra Duster. That's the name of it, but it was a Plymouth monster truck. Ran a lot in the 80s and 90s, and then he got his truck from Pablo Huffaker and became toured with that Terra Duster, but also got the deal with the WWE. And he was also known to drive a truck called Bret the Hitman Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin 316. So he has a lot of good history, and we're gonna do an audio version of that. So we're gonna post Mark's tonight, and then we're gonna do Williard's tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that audio version. Hopefully I dust up my Skype and maybe try that. But outside of that, Brad, you got anything else to say?
No, it was awesome having you on, Mark. As far as you could follow me on Instagram at the Monster Truck and Ugger. You can find me on Facebook. Check out Bradley Shaw Designs. Cheech, what can people find you on for social media yourself?
Well, if you normally, my Batman light's knocked out, so if you want to hit me up with that, that's broken. Airmail is a new way of doing anything, so I just purchased a 1941 DC-3 airplane. So if it only allowed to haul one mail, and that's to me. So you just let me know where you're at, and I'll go ahead and pick you up some mail, and then we can go from there. I'm still working on my pen pal. So if you want to pen pal me, you're more welcome to. Since Instant Messenger is broken, AOL is broken, so I don't even think they have it yet. Maybe you guys could hit me up on Yahoo Messenger. Remember Hotmail Messenger? Anyone remember Juno? Juno.com. How about Walmart Connect? There's a bunch of stuff you can hook me up on. Maybe you guys, if you guys can yell at the stars. My uncle showed me this one time where if you want to listen to AM radio and the clouds are clear, where I was living in West Virginia, you can hear the AM stations from Atlanta, Georgia, from the AM radio. So, hieroglyphics. If you want to send a message like the Flintstones with a rock, MySpace. I still rock in MySpace. I'm not that far away from Abraham Lincoln's burial area. They still have that little stuff that you.
Hey, you just got to stop. You got to stop.
Guys, please understand this. I never know he's gonna do this. Okay, and I start. Oh my god.
One of those little tappy things that they do in the Civil War. That I got one of those. CB radio, caller, RAM. There's different ways to get a hold of me. Or you can go Facebook.com, Daniel TJ Gosh, Instagram, Dan Agosh 10, and hit me up that way. But if someone ever goes old school, then for me, I will give you a crew shirt. If you have to do some type of old school, if you even do a message in a bottle and let me know what river it's floating into, I will try to go to that river and find that bottle for a message.
Hey, Brad, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Brad, you asked, and this is what you got for asking, Brad. Just want you to know
but the thing is, there's times where he just goes and says, what his Instagram is, Facebook, and then there's times where he does this, and it leaves me just dead.
I think the best form of getting a hold of me is if you find an old World War II bomber and drop a note from the Bombay down to where I live, then it'll get to me somehow. One time, Mark, I said the best way to get a hold of me was Pony Express. Wells Fargo cabin, horse mail call, Coach, 2 cans of soup, Coach. A telegram. If someone gets a Western Union, or one of those people that knock on the door and says, "Here's a telegram," you are something of that nature. So I try to get different forms of communication, and
I think
go
I'm going
from
to try
there.
Pony Express. I think I want to try that one. Yep. Hey, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it seemed to me back then it was like 144 horses or whatever they used to do that.
Yeah.
Seriously, it was a crazy amount of horses. I guess you'd have to Google it to really see, but it was a crazy amount of horses. Not to go off the subject, but
right. The history.
So here I am.
Yeah. The history of the Pony Express, not the monster truck. Since we have fans, the name for the reason of that truck, the Pony Express mail carrier was Pretty good.
Hold on. Oh crap! Come on. I got a message from Cheech.
What was that off of?
AOL Instant Messenger.
It's your.
Listen, you guys have a great night. Thank you again, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Will do.
Awesome. You as well, Mark.
Thank you.
Oh man.
Once again, guys, thank you to High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, 6B Apparel, JB Scale Graphics. Once again, Kimberly Cantoni will be on. This episode will be on tonight. So that's going to be a cool thing. So we're updating. I took some time last week to organize some of the episodes and the seasons that we've been doing. So as of right now, history-wise, since we've been doing it since 2014, but some stuff that happened between then and now, we didn't get the ball rolling pretty much until 2017, 2018, pretty much.
About that.
So we're kind of lost in translation. So right now, I put it under season 4. That's where we're at. Most of our episodes is from the 2018 era. So that was kind of like season 1, 2, 3. We're in season 4 right now. So we got that going on for you folks. So be on the lookout for this stuff. And also, just to let people know, let's see here. I will be at this weekend.
By the way, guys, I never know what.
What? Oh,
you were saying Oklahoma somewhere,
okay.
Right?
Yeah. Shaw, Oklahoma. It's just a display. So we're bringing the picture truck if anyone wants to come by and get a picture inside the Raminator. But and then Kurt and Nathan will have Ramunition in Gun Barrel City, Texas. That's near the Dallas, Texas area. So, and just want to let everyone know next week, on the 8th of May, we're gonna be at Garwrench, Ford, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram. Yes, they're joint dealerships, but they're going to be at North Vernon, Indiana. So if everyone in the North Vernon, Indiana area wants to stop by and see Raminator crush some cars, go ahead. And then the following week, it's going to be St. Clairsville, Ohio, my neck of the woods in West Virginia. And so the West Virginia is kind of split in the Ohio River between West Virginia and Ohio. So go ahead and take a look at that, guys. Go to Raminator.com, RAMINATOR.com, and then click on appearances, and it has the whole 2021 schedule. If anyone wants to take a look at it, go ahead, and hopefully we could see you guys there. But outside of that, guys, that is all for me. Anything else, Brad?
No, I just want to say I never know what Cheech is going to do in the intros or the exits. I leave it a surprise for me because you saw my reaction tonight, and I kind of want to go back to the beginning. I just quickly say, positivity, check up on your friends and family. This time that we're in is uncertain at points, and mental health is very important. So make sure you're checking up on your friends and family and just love one another. That's kind of what I wanted to say as well. Mental health is important. Take care of yourself. That's all I can really say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you on that. A lot of people need it. You just never know how other people are. And, like a lot of people say, I'm full of sarcasm, rock music, and movie quotes. So, a lot of saying, if you can't get out of the kitchen, if you can't handle the heat, leave.
Get out of the kitchen.
Get out of the kitchen. So, whatever.
And as always, guys, thank you for sticking behind us for the last 6 years. We're having more fun than ever doing this, and we've been doing the live shows for about a year now, and it's awesome and fun what we do, and you guys are the best to be able to still watch us every week and always tune in. So thank you to you fans out there. You guys are one of the major driving forces why me and Dan do this.
And also, Brad, let's thank the people that listen to our podcast. We're finding out that a lot of people take their time out of their day doing something.
Yeah.
They listen to our audio version, not just live. Remember, folks, these live versions are now starting to become on our iTunes and also our Spotify. I mean, we're never going to forget where we came from. So that's the reason why we still call this a podcast, because we still have that form of entertainment for you guys to watch. We'll maybe look into more in the future. Maybe we can try to edit some of the live versions so you guys don't have a long pause. I know there's a good minute of pausing because we're taking this and we're making it to MP3 audio.
Yeah.
So from we hit live all the way to it ends, that's it.
That's what goes up.
Yep. So just bear with us about that. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, like we said, this whole episode goes to the iTunes way of going. So it's pretty cool that we have a 2-hour episode, but we're gonna get this up and loaded. And Brad,
one more quick thing. Go ahead. One more quick thing about the YouTube, like Spotify and stuff, and Apple Podcasts. Give us a good review, guys. Give us 5 stars. Give us a review. That helps us. It enables us to get seen by more people, and eventually, who knows, get advertisers. That helps us out in our popularity. And so, like I said, it helps us. Will help us offset the cost of hosting the podcast, the StreamYard. It'll help offset the cost so it doesn't come out of either mine or Cheech's pockets. It allows us to be able to be, sufficient and save us money, but it also allows the podcast to go as well. So we normally don't mention that, but that's the kind of reality of running a podcast for the last couple of years. So,
and also on this Facebook and YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, and also use the bell ring. If you guys are the first time watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. On YouTube, not Facebook, like, share, and subscribe. Same thing on Facebook, guys. That helps us out also with that too. So try to do that with the live product. Our products are going on here, but also try to help us out on that too. But that's pretty much it. Now, pretty much it for me.
Yeah, and it's also it for me. So, guys, next week, Kimberly Cantoni, same time, same place. And tomorrow we're also doing the audio recording with Terra Duster, Mark Wheeler. I believe it's Mark Wheeler. It's two Marks, so it gets confusing. So we'll have that tomorrow night for you guys. Thank you for the love and support. We love all you guys. Thank you so much. And as we always say on this podcast, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace. And broadcast.